Hi everybody, and welcome to the first video in a short series about starting as a first year teacher. I will be discussing things that I wish I knew when I started last year. So this video is a little introduction to me and also about getting started in your classroom for the first time. So my name is Kate, and to my children I'm Mrs. Forrester. I am a grade 5 teacher in Cape Town, South Africa, and this is the first time that I'm creating a video for student teachers and colleagues. I usually create videos to help my students in different subjects, so this is something a little new for me as well. I'm in my second year of full-time teaching, and my teaching career started at the beginning of 2021, mid-COVID, which was a very interesting time to start teaching and to start a career. So I studied at Stellenbosch University. I did a Bachelor of Education, intermediate and senior phase, and I'm passionate about education and using it to make the world a better place. I feel that there's so much negativity around us and people are complaining constantly, and I think that using education, it is a tool that can help us to actually make the world better through our children. So what are these videos about? It is a 3-part series aimed at helping final year student teachers as they enter the world of full-time teaching for the first time. And I will discuss tips on things that I wish I knew when I started. I thought now would be a good time considering it is still quite fresh in my mind, and I hope that people can benefit from these little tips. And then I will talk about a variety of different topics based on my personal experience. So it's important to keep in mind that it is my experience and it is specific to my school, and it probably won't be exactly the same for everyone. In fact, it definitely won't be the same, but I think there will be things that you can take away which will help you to prepare when you are starting at your own school. All schools do things differently, but this is my journey, so hopefully you can take something away from it. Getting started, and the first point is investing in your classroom space, the school budget and resources. So for anyone who's asked me in the past about this specific point, I always say that it is worth investing time and money into your classroom space. It is the place that you are going to spend hours, usually about 8 hours for 5 days a week, which is a lot of time, and it's worth making a positive space that you can be in for that amount of time. So it's useful to ask the school when you start, because sometimes they have a budget set aside for painting or for resources in the classroom like posters, and so make sure that you ask them before you go and spend all your money. There are obviously ways to do it without spending too much money too, so you can also be creative in that regard. See if you can get some friends to help you with painting if you're not able to pay someone to do it, but I really do advise having a fresh new start in your classroom when you get there, especially if you're planning to spend quite a few years there. Then just a little tip on choosing your paint color. Make sure it's something that's calming and promotes productivity. It's not something that's going to rev up the children. That's also just something useful to keep in mind. And then with the resources, there are ways to create your own resources. You can go onto sites like Teachers Pay Teachers, Twinkle, I've heard of one called Teacher Thrive. Lots of teachers also create resources to help other teachers. So see what you can find. You can print them off and laminate them, and they are very effective as posters in your classroom. Then classroom theme. So this is more for aesthetics, but it also helps you to guide you in terms of what kinds of posters and quotes and things like that you use. So my theme is bees, so that's why I've chosen the little bee pictures. And it also helps when you need to do things as a class. For example, our yearbook, which we do at the end of each year, I use our class theme for our page. And it just guides you in terms of other decorations for your class. So I've got little bees, and then the borders that I use on my walls are also bee theme. So it depends if you are someone that likes to stick to a theme, but obviously it's not compulsory. Then decorating your classroom and creating the best possible learning environment. I think the main tip that I would give on this point is don't rush into just filling up the walls with posters and pictures, because it's more worthwhile to wait and actually put things up there that the children are going to use on a daily basis. It will save you a lot of time in terms of having to re-explain things if they're able to look on the wall and be reminded. So what I did was I allocated sections on my wall for each subject, and then I put posters that relate to those subjects in those sections. And I would have actually waited and left some spaces and created things as I went along instead, because some of the things they don't use, and it's basically a waste of space. So I will be reevaluating that situation soon. So just be comfortable with leaving space and adding resources as you go along, even though it seems like you don't want to look unprepared, but really it is worth doing that. And then communication with the school, just make sure you're on the same page with what you're allowed to do in terms of painting and resources. Make sure they know exactly what you're going to do and that you've asked permission, and also just made sure that you are not just using all your own money when you could actually use a budget that they have set aside. So communication is key, just make sure everyone is on the same page. I have included a few pictures of my classroom so that you can see how I've laid it out with the different subject sections. I would say the most useful posters that I have are the world map, the planets, and the times tables, and then the Stompie Afrikaans poster which I created, which is right in the front above the whiteboard. So that was one that my class helped me make at the end of last year, which I realized I needed, and I didn't have any more space in my Afrikaans section because I'd filled it up with other posters. So that's an example of a way that your children can help you to create the resources that will benefit them the most. I literally printed out the letters, and then they colored it in with bright pastels, and I put examples under each one for Stompie, which they can actually just look straight up and see it from their desks, and it can help them with their Afrikaans writing. And then on the bottom left corner next to the door, you can see my little cupcake chart, which is for the birthdays. And a tip which I can give for that is don't write the children's names on the paper and then laminate it if you are wanting to reuse it, which is probably something that is common sense for most people, but I was very eager and I wrote all their names and birthdays on the paper and then laminated it and realized, how am I going to reuse this now? So I did make a plan, and I now laminate pieces of paper and write the children's names on so that it fits perfectly into the cupcake. But it is ideal if you can just change the names on the laminated paper each year. So now, of course, my first class feel very special because their names are under there forever. And then another tip with regards to laminating, when you're making labels for their desks and things like that, just remember to keep a little border strip of laminating around the edges, because if you cut straight where the paper is, it's going to split apart. Especially if it's something that they're touching all the time, like a name tag on the desk. So this is something I forgot to mention to my assistant at the beginning of the year, and she did cut on the paper, and so they split within the first 2 weeks of the children being back at school. And these are things that most people know, but we don't always remember because there's so many things you're doing decorating your classroom, so just keep that in mind. So that brings us to the end of the first video with getting started and the introduction. And what you can expect in the next 2 videos, part 2 is going to be about admin and filing, which is probably the one I would have found the most useful before I started. I will explain which files and books I actually needed from the beginning. so that you're not going and getting things that are going to waste your time and money. And then for part 3, random extra tips, and I will cover parent-teacher meetings in that one. I've had lots of questions about that via Instagram. And please follow my journey. I am on Instagram, Educate. I often post little videos of songs and chants and little fun lessons, ways that the children enjoy the subject and good ways for them to remember the information. And on YouTube, please subscribe to Forrester Tutoring so that you can watch the rest of the series. And then the last tip is to join the online teacher community. It really is a great way to get new ideas. Teachers are always willing to help each other, and you can even ask how someone would suggest teaching a certain topic, and teachers are full of suggestions. So make sure that you are following other teachers. It's a great form of professional development as well, and also just interesting to see how other teachers do things around South Africa and also all around the world. So try and follow the teacher community. And I hope that this video helped you and that you are able to take away some tips from here. All the best for the start of your teaching journey, and thank you so much for watching.